Very good. Okay. All right, everyone, we have Sarah here with us today. Sarah, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, a little bit about your little family, and how you first learned about congenital diaphragmatic hernia.
Okay, I am Sarah Orth. I am married to my husband, Dustin Orth, and we have a little child named Charles Morgan, and he is how we found out about CDH. So we found out late in our pregnancy, right around 32 weeks. So it was I feel like a race to try to gather up as much information as quickly as possible.
Oh, okay. And so how did you, how did you prepare other than gathering information? What information did the doctors give you, or did you find it out on Google, or what did
Oh
you
man,
guys, how did you?
we had a very good care team. They were very realistic with us, but they also they did not give us any kind of set in stone numbers, which for me, I guess, gave me a little bit of peace of mind. So they explained exactly what a congenital diaphragmatic hernia was, what the risks were, what it could look like, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then I came home, and for I want to say the first like week or two after finding his diagnosis, I over Googled, which I think a lot of us over Google. And then I just had to take a break, and I tried to research what I could, but I am not the most technical savvy person, and so I did not find really any kind of groups, or I didn't hear about CDHI.org, anything like that until I think after he was born, because I did those 2 weeks of like intensive research, and then I just kind of took a break until he was born, and I was like, let me just see how this goes, because I was depressing myself, and I think it was taking a toll on my pregnancy. So I just tried to pull myself back and get in a happy space, and put faith in my doctors. And um, it was a very intense time. It was a very emotional time, but it worked out, I guess, in the long run. I just trying to think of how to word it. I didn't want to over scare myself, because after I found out, I guess, what the odds were, um, I just kind of pulled myself back. And I'm not sure if that's what everybody does, but I knew I did not have a lot of time to come up with a better plan. Our situation, we got the confirmation at, I think, 33 weeks, and they wanted to do a C-section on him at 39 weeks because of the time that he was being born. It was right during cold and flu season. And then we financially could not relocate or anything like that. And so, yeah, that's.
Okay. All right. So tell us about when he made his arrival.
So we were first in line on the C-section list on his birth date, which was November 6, 2017. It was such an experience. I remember going back there. There was where we delivered in Chattanooga, Tennessee, is at Erlanger Hospital, and they're a teaching hospital. And so they asked me beforehand, was it okay if some of the students were in there? And I had no problem with that at all. For me, it's before I even knew about CDH awareness, I was like, I need other people to know about this, and to however many people can learn about this, that'd be great. And so I remember when they wheeled me back, I think there was about 20 to 23 people in the operating room with me. My husband was back there, and I want to say within 8 minutes, they got him out, and I think they held him up for half a second, and then he was immediately pushed over to the side, and they intubated him. I guess did blood gases on him, and then they wheeled him beside me before they took him to the NICU. I mean, I was still on the operating table, but I was able to see him for about 2 seconds and just cried my eyes out the entire time. And so they took him to the NICU, and then it took them about 6.5 hours to stabilize him. For the simple fact that he kept on pulling out every single line. They would get a line in, and he would immediately just rip it off, because they said that he was born fighting, as kind of what the doctors had labeled him as. So they had to fully sedate him just so he would stop ripping everything off of him.
Wow. Seeing his videos now and your post about him, that just makes sense. His personality. Okay, so how was the NICU stay for you guys and surgery?
We had surgery. He was 3 days old. He was double vented whenever he was born, and so they took him off one of them, and he had his surgery. He had his surgery done laparoscopically. The hospital that we went to, the surgeon, that's one of the things that he specialized in, and he was very upfront and honest and said, I'm going to go in first with a couple incisions and see what I can do. If it cannot be done, or I do not think it will hold, we're stopping, and we're going to do an incision for him. And so he has about 6 tiny cuts on the left side of his body, and then one, I think, on his belly, where they did the complete surgery laparoscopically. He had what they classified as a small C size hole, but he had just enough fatty muscle for them to tie off. They said if it was like a millimeter or half a millimeter shorter, that they would not be able to do it. And so they went and tied it off there, and they went through his ribs, and he healed amazing. His surgery went great. He just bounced back really, really fast, which was astonishing to all of his doctors there. They can't say definitely that this is why, but they think that maybe he bounced back so fast because he also has a genetic syndrome, which makes him not feel pain as much. And so they think that because he was not on a ton of pain medication throughout his entire stay, like he got weaned off really fast. And so now, as surgeon, last time we went and saw them, they said that they think that might have helped in his case to be able to not feel as much, so his body had more time to rest and heal really fast. Because he was off and on regular, he was off his jet vent at a week old, and then he was off his oxygen at a week and a half, a little bit of, it was a little, like a day or two shy of 2 weeks. And then we were home by day 20.
Wow. Wow. That's really quick. Wow. And he had any complications since you've been home?
He has had a couple complications. I noticed he would stop breathing a whole lot, especially when he slept here. And it was really hard to pinpoint what was going on with him, because he would always stat between 95 and 100 whenever he was awake, but he would always dip into the 70s when he was sleeping. And so we had a sleep study done, and he stopped breathing. They counted about 180 times every night. And so come to find out is that he had extremely large adenoids and tonsils. And so they had those surgically removed at 16 months old. And since those got removed, we got put back on oxygen after that for his whole healing process, and just to make sure that he didn't have those dips anymore. But he's been oxygen free for 9 or 10 months now.
Oh, that's great.
Yep. So he's been done really well with that. And then I think that the only other, I'm trying to think if he had any other surgeries. He's had like minor little procedures here and there, to look at reflux and like his GERD issues. But so far we've been really, really lucky with him.
And feeding, no issues?
The boy loves food. He loves food. We have issues, like we still have to go back and do either something with GI or neurology to see. He has a swallow issue, but only with liquid. Um, but I think that's just neurological with him. I think it's a sensory thing. But as far as food goes, I think he would eat all day long if given the option to eat all day long, which that's just a different, like that's not the norm for most CDH parents. Weight gain and calorie counts and stuff like that. I've never experienced that, and that's because of his genetic syndrome that he has. So I have to be careful on the other side to not overfeed him and to watch what he eats, and I have to count calories for the other reason to make sure he does not go over a certain number. So he's done, besides his little swallow issue that he has, he I don't think he has a food aversion that I've seen yet. We'll
Uh,
see.
that's great. Um, so he did a little lip sync video for us, and I'm gonna have to attach that so that during the telethon people can see him. He's so adorable, and I see your post on Facebook of him eating and playing and running around the backyard, and he's a doll. He looks like he has so much personality.
Oh
It's
yes, he loves to dance. He has a condition called Smith-Magenis syndrome, and I think with every either health issue you have or syndrome you might have, there's good and bad parts to everything. And so we're trying to look at the silver lining. And so the good part of his SMS is that he loves hugs, he loves giving kisses, he loves being an entertainer, um, music. Like he's nonverbal, and so he gets his point across through music and dance. And so he likes to just he keeps me on my toes. He keeps me running all day long, but it's wonderful. And I hope he keeps his personality. I know he's only 2.5 right now, but I hope he keeps this fun-loving personality that's just full of life, because that helps me get through each day, because I definitely struggle. I have hard days with his health and with his syndrome. Thankfully, like I told you earlier, we've been really, really lucky as far as his health goes, with his heart and with his lungs. We've been off almost all medications CDH related. We are like weaning him off of his last medicine right now, and he's like on a minimal amount of that. And so we've been super, super, super blessed in that aspect. And it's hard to, I don't take that for granted. I guess that's how I should put it. Like, because I'm friends with a lot of people. I've met a lot of amazing people through the unfortunate side of CDH, and I hope that our story can be a story that there can be good on the other side, but good looks different for everybody. Like we are not without our struggles. I usually don't post our struggles online for other people to see. If they want to ask me, I'll send them through either messages or text. But I try to be as positive and keep the story as positive as I can, without sugarcoating it. Like whenever we've gone through surgeries, I do post those images and videos and whatnot. But our day-to-day life, I usually don't show his meltdowns, or, he's a toddler. I mean, toddlers, he's a 2-year-old boy right now. So
Do you have any advice for new parents? Something you wish you would have known or been warned about, or hope you would have been given, or it's someone who's just diagnosed? What would you tell them?
um, be careful whenever you Google. Um, I would say if you're able to reach out on the CDHI support group and talk to people that have experienced it. That's the best case. No two stories are the same. I don't think I've actually seen any that are carbon copies of each other. Go with your gut. If you if you feel like something is off, something is wrong, it probably is. And you will have to, or hopefully later on, you won't have to advocate like an insane person, but I know throughout our experience, I have had to push and push and push different doctors or therapists or, because there's other complications that come along with CDH that they have so many specialists, and sometimes it's hard to get a lot of specialists on the same page. I think there are some hospitals that have CDHI clinics that do really well. I'm not quite sure, but just advocate, and if you feel like something's off, go with your gut with that. And the worst thing that could happen is you go in and they're like, nope, nothing's wrong, and then you just kind of go home and start it over. And my other advice would just be give yourself a little bit of grace. It's not an easy walk. You will meet some of the most incredible people that you've probably ever met in your entire life. You will make bonds and friendships with people that really relate to you on a personal level. You rejoice when they rejoice, and you mourn when they mourn, because it really you get a whole new family with CDH. It's not something that you asked for, but it is one of the positives with this diagnosis, is that you meet some incredible people, and the majority of the people that I've seen have a heart of gold. Like they do everything in their power to help you and give you advice and share their personal experiences, and it's a beautiful thing to see, because you'll see people that really pour their heart out to you that are going through a hard time themselves, and it just shows like how much they care about the cause and how much they care not only about their own CDHer or their own cherub, but about all of them. Like it's a very loving community.
Yeah. We do have good groups. We really do. Really good people. Makes the journey a little bit easier. But no, that's great advice. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Um, trying to think. Um, I'm not quite sure off the top of my head right now. I get so nervous.
Oh, no, you're doing great. You're doing great. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for, not only sharing your story and sharing CM with us, but anytime we have something we want to do for awareness, or we need help on a team, you just jump right in, and that means a lot to us. We love seeing families get involved. We especially love seeing new families get involved, and um, we're glad you're part of the CDHI family, but we wish you never were. And I say that in the nicest way possible.
Right, absolutely. No, it's been wonderful. It's definitely helped, and I enjoy, like, however I can give back, I would love to, because it's hard. It's hard for families just starting the journey. It's hard for families 5 years in the journey, 10 years. Like CDH is lifelong, and you need people there with you the entire time, not just at the beginning or when you're struggling. Like I need people when I'm having good times too, because there are certain milestones that we'll reach that are huge for us, that unfortunately sometimes friends and family don't really grasp that, because their kid or they reached it a whole lot sooner than what we did. And so it's nice to have it throughout your entire journey. You don't want to do this, or I would strongly suggest that nobody does this journey alone. And thankfully we have CDHI that we can go to for support and for advice and for concrete medical facts, which has been huge for me. Like I didn't find out about y'all till after Charles was born, which I wish I wish I would have, but I'm also kind of glad I pulled back a little bit and did not bombard myself with information before he was born. So it's a double-edged sword with that as well.
It is. That makes sense. All right. Well, thank you so much for speaking to us today, for sharing his story with us, and we look forward to watching him grow.
Oh, thank you so much. We appreciate it too.